All right, man. I've taken a look at your shooting here, and well, I'll give you a little bit of feedback on the drill that you're doing and the repetitions, and then talk about your training kind of generally. Okay, so as I understand it, it's one shot on the plate, then you do a movement, and then again one shot on the plate. Okay, so we could think about this. Essentially, you're just looking at well, we could break it into like three elements, like kind of style, which would be how your stance kind of tends, and then getting into position, how you look, and getting out of position. Okay, so number one, stance style-wise, I like that your feet are spread apart. You look generally ready to move when you go. That looks pretty good. But I want you to kind of key in on one thing here, and that's this. I'll count you as moving. Like you're done shooting here, you're going to move to here, and to me, it counts as moving when your shoulders, like your center of gravity, starts making movement in the direction you want to go after you're done shooting, if that makes sense. So the first shot goes off here, and now look at, as I go frame by frame forward, what happens. See, you kind of coil up a little bit and then push off. That's essentially the thing that you want to cut out, to where you're already preloaded and preset to get pushing off to the next position. Now here, this one's a little bit different to assess. You have to do a good job of getting the gun up into position. This is nice. Then shooting. And it looks to me like you never really stopped your motion. You didn't really stop. You just kind of kept that, a similar roll. Like you're rolling through the position. Okay. So, getting out of position, it looks like systemically, as you go through here and look at rep by rep, you need to have that coil up to get moving. You do a good job of having your gun up and ready to go. Okay, that's technique-wise, that's my assessment of it. Now, from a training standpoint, what you've set up for yourself here is a little bit of a problem, and the reason is you've only got one steel plate, like one thing to shoot. So, now let's go back before you change the order. Okay, so here, for example, no, I look at this and you're not really getting into a proper stance that you'd want to stop in. Here, you have an extra shot, so then you have that kind of hitch, that stutter step, and then you get going again. All right, the problem here is that you're shooting one shot on a steel plate and doing a movement drill like this. It's really difficult to get a clean assessment about like what your style is or like what you're trying to do. If that makes sense, because if you kind of roll in here, if you roll into position and gun up and you fire this first shot off, if you get a hit there, then you really wouldn't ever stop your center of gravity and you keep going. And if not, then you're going to kind of force yourself to stop. This isn't really a very realistic scenario or a realistic test of how things are going to usually play out in a match. I mean, normally you're going to be moving from position to position. So you want to set things up so the position kind of forces you to stop in order to assess your technique, right? Unless the point of this, as far as a drill, is to keep moving. But I would guess that you put the piece of steel far enough away that it's not really viable to hit it consistently while you're moving. So just from a training perspective, you set up a scenario here that's really, it's not that it's shitty, it's not bad, it's just it could be a lot better if it was a little more focused. I mean, if that makes sense. Like if just instead of having one plate out there, you have two plates that are separated with a little bit of distance to transition around, like that would be good. Because like I said, you get a better test of what you're doing in terms of your technique. Now, all that having been said, the big thing that you want to cut out here is that that tendency that you have to wind up before you push out of position. It's not a good thing. A little bit better moving that direction, but moving straight down range was a problem. One recommendation I'd make is drop your trailing foot back behind you a little bit more when you're going to be moving forward, just a little bit, so you don't have to kind of pick up your foot and set it behind you in order to get an impulse to move forward. So anyway, that's what I have for you. I hope that makes sense. So a little bit of feedback on your training, a little bit of feedback on your style. It's just like you got to be careful when you're going to be setting up training scenarios for your movement, because you want to be really specific about what you're testing and what you're trying to accomplish, rather than just set this thing up and force yourself to move around. All right, so that's what I have for you. If you have any questions or comments, put them down below.